Crowhill here. Today we review a porter and discuss the logical song. Hey, Big Wig, good to see you. How's it going? What is this flat beer in front of me here?
How about some beer and conversation?
That's a great idea. All right, so what are we drinking?
This is a porter, and kind of a flat-looking
Kind
porter.
of a flat-looking porter.
Yeah, but anyway.
All right, that sounds good. I love porter.
What's on your mind?
Well, there are times when all the world's asleep.
Yeah, right.
The questions run too deep for such a simple man. Won't you please tell me what we've learned? I know it sounds absurd.
Well, yeah, a little.
Please tell me who I am.
Ha! There's a little William Shatner going on.
That was my goal.
Oh, that was a nice Shatner-esque delivery.
Shatner-esque, yes. Yes,
All right.
That's Supertramp, the logical song.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
All right, but what is this?
So this is a PB Cup peanut butter porter from Stevens Point Brewery in Wisconsin.
And I was fishing around forever trying to find a bottle opener.
Yeah.
And
it's a twist off.
It's a twist off, which is
right. Yeah.
That's kind of odd.
It is kind of odd.
So it's 5.5%.
Yeah.
And it tells you right up front. I've tried. Remember, Sweet Baby Jesus out there has a delicious peanut butter porter.
Right.
I've always wondered how to homebrew one.
Yeah.
Never figured out a good way. This one just says porter with natural flavor added. So they didn't really brew peanuts or peanut butter in the brewing process. They just put it in the fermenter or something. Or just right before bottling, maybe. Yeah,
and I'm tasting peanut butter, but I'm also tasting that it's not like peanuts. It's something, it's a peanut butter flavor.
Yeah.
But it's sort of an artificial peanut butter flavor. Yeah. Don't you think?
I do, and the total lack of carbonation. It's just right now. There's just like a little bit of a Pepsi fizz left over, and
that's surprising. Sometimes that'll happen when you have. There are some ingredients in a beer that will kill the carbonation, and I wonder if whatever they use for peanut butter killed the carbonation.
Yes, I think that's the one.
Killed the head. Anyway.
Yeah, they killed the head. If you, that's why you probably are not advised to put actual peanut butter in the beer because of the oils, which is how chocolate. They say that about chocolate, right?
That's
know that
the oils.
You need to put it in very early to make sure it boils off or something. But anyway,
well, okay. I mean, I'll drink it. It's good, but it's not. I'm not amazed by it.
I would say who makes the other one? Duclaw's?
Is it Duclaw that does sweet? No, Sweet Baby Jesus, is that Duclaw?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
My memory of that's
much better.
Is better than this.
Yes, better than this.
Anyway, the logical song.
Yeah.
I can. When I hear that, I think. Did you have a radio on your bus? Did you guys listen to music on your bus?
No.
We did, and that's kind of like a bus ride. Did I just date myself? All those ladies that are out there thinking I'm 25. I think I just blew it. But yes, the logical song, but the Breakfast in America, the whole album was pretty. Was pretty good. Long Way Home. There were some other hits on there. That was a big deal. But what does this have to do with conversation?
All right, so let me try to set the stage with a story.
Yeah.
Okay. So this guy wants to buy an engagement ring.
Okay.
And he goes into this jeweler's shop, and there's 2 cases of engagement rings, and he looks at them and. He likes some in both the cases, but he notices that the ones in the left case are like 30% more expensive than the ones in the right case, and he's not sure exactly why.
Right.
So he asks the jeweler, "How come these are so much more expensive than these?" And he says, "Oh, I got to tell you, all these are used rings. They're all from estate sales and people turning them in, and the ones over here are from marriages." Where people were married, and they got married, and they stayed married until they died. These were from successful, long-term marriages. The ones over here, we recovered from divorce proceedings. All right. So that's why these are more expensive, because these come from the marriages that did well, and these come from the marriages. And the guy says, "Well, do you think the ring had anything to do with that?
Yeah, right. Come on. Look, I'm not trying to go cheap here, but why spend more than I have to?
Right. Yeah, and the jeweler says, "Okay, I get what you're saying."
Right.
But just think about this: when you're giving your sweetheart that ring, and you realize that this is a ring from somebody who got a divorce.
Yeah.
How's that going to play in your mind for the next 10, 20, 30 years? You know,
Right.
What are you going to be thinking about?
All right. And what if she were to get wind of this?
Yeah, exactly. She finds out that you saved some money just to give me a divorce ring. Is that what's going on here? So I tell that story because it illustrates a difference between different ways of thinking about things, right?
Right.
Like you can think about things from a purely logical, rational perspective. Is there any difference between these rings in these two cases? I mean, they're both gold. They're both, diamonds and rubies and sapphires and stuff, right? They're the same material, but somehow there is a weird feeling.
Yeah.
About now is that now a lot of times we say that's just superstition, reject that sort of thing, cast it aside, and I'm kind of saying not so fast.
You're saying not so fast because a few years ago. Many years ago, I discovered like the skeptic movement.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was deep into, the great-grandfather Carl Sagan and, the way to go about analyzing the world.
Yeah.
And they would 100% dismiss that.
Right.
What if you went into the famous sweater museum and you went in there, and after we both tried on sweaters, they said, yours is Mr. Rogers, but mine, but you, sir, are wearing Jeffrey Dahmer's sweater.
Right, exactly.
Would it give you the ick?
It's
isn't that the dumbest thing in the world to get the ick from a sweater?
It is.
It's just cotton.
It is. Yes, and that's that's another good story that brings up the point that I'm trying to get to, which is we like to think that we're so logical.
Right.
We're, logical, practical, all that kind of stuff that Supertramp's talking about. And the reality is that we're not.
Right.
We do have these weird feelings about things. And here's the other thing that I want to talk about, which is...
But what the person says... I know that's stupid. I know it's stupid, but I don't know. I just feel like that.
Yeah.
You're going to give him a little bit of a pass.
Yeah.
You're going to say you're not a dummy.
Well, how can you insist on it? No, you must save the money and buy the divorce.
And I insist that you not feel icky or weird about the divorce.
The guy's just saying, look, for my entire marriage, I'm going to feel weird about this. Right?
And you're saying, you have my permission.
Yeah, and you have my permission to feel weird about that. Yeah. So I think that we try so hard to pretend that we're rational, and then think about all the ways that we divide up our mind. Right? There's our conscious mind and our unconscious mind. Then you get into neuroscience, and you've got our friend Ian McGilchrist with the left brain and the right brain.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And you've got emotional versus rational, and you've got system 1 versus system 2 thinking. That's the who's the guy who does that one? Anyway, you've got Jonathan Haidt and the elephant and the rider. You remember that one?
No.
Okay, so imagine that there's this. I'm going to exaggerate Haidt's story a little bit. Imagine there's this mouse sitting on the back of the elephant,
right.
And the mouse can kind of feel the elephant's muscles, and can sense when the elephant's about to turn right, and he can sense it, but he doesn't really rationally know that that's what's going on. So he says, "Turn right," and the elephant turns right. He says, "Turn left," and the elephant turns left. And the mouse thinks he's like driving the elephant.
Right.
And it's not what's going on at all. The elephant is doing its own thing, and the mouse is just kind of after the fact going along with it. A lot of people say that's sort of the way our conscious mind is, that decisions are made at a subconscious level, sometimes even just at a biological level, and then the conscious mind comes along and rationalizes it and gives it a story.
Yeah, I think we think that our opinions and view of the world and whatever are the result of careful analysis, and I have come to that. But really, probably more of your brain power is going towards supporting the decision that you made rather quickly.
That's right. Yeah. And then you have the religious perspective. Jeremiah said, "The heart is desperately wicked and deceitful above all things. Who can understand it?" There's this idea that you don't even understand. Now, in Hebrew, heart doesn't just mean what we think of as emotions. It means kind of your whole person. And then St. Paul talks about the battle between the flesh and the spirit, and desire, wanting to do one thing, but doing something else. So this idea of, like, who is the one making this decision? Like, when you say, what if we were to put it this way? Somebody says, I believe in God, or I don't believe in God.
Right.
Who's the I he's talking about? Is it his conscious mind, his unconscious mind, his left brain, his right brain, his rational person, his self? Like.
But wouldn't an individual, even if he's not thought this through, I mean, besides you, who has, if you recognize that there are all of these factors, going on all at the same time, doesn't there? It's not like they're firing off in different times and like you're making radically different decisions. There's a certain coalescence that is that we would think of as the I, and you might be, yes, there is like a left brain, right brain split, but you tend to lean left.
Yeah.
And that, they tend to lean left. You tend to lean not emotional.
Yeah.
Even though recognizing that these other factors exist.
That's a great point, because despite the fact that all these this committee is going on in your brain, that we still recognize, my friend Hooleyboog behaves this way.
I can kind of
predict.
Yes. All right. We're gonna see if Hooleyboog wants to go to the carnival today. Well, if I know him,
right? Yeah. So that's a very good point. So even though we have all these weird things going on, it doesn't change the fact that we kind of have a nature, a personality, a bias, a trend, something like that. So let's take this down to even a deeper level. Like, at any given moment, your eyes are bringing in this enormous amount of data. There's so much data coming into your eyes. But the amount of that data that actually makes it to your brain is a teeny tiny little fraction. There are all these systems in place.
Right.
Like, there are systems that find boundaries between things,
right,
and there are systems that detect movement, and there are systems that do all this junk.
And well, go ahead.
Yeah.
I got it.
So you get this funnel going on, this huge amount of data that's getting filtered down, and the stuff that actually comes into your conscious mind is a minuscule fraction of the amount of data you're actually getting.
Right.
So even our perception of the world, we think that we are like these neutral observers of the world. But that, before it even gets into our brains.
But what would account for, or is it the things that you've already spoken of, that we might have different filters? That for me, one guy is seeking out danger. The other guy is listening for birds.
Right.
Or Okay,
like that's a great point.
Like walking down the street.
Yeah, that's a great point, because on a certain level, there's just like a biological level filter.
Yes, because your brain just can't handle that much information.
Exactly.
Or it's too much. You couldn't function.
Yes, at a certain level, we probably have the same sort of filters that a mouse has. Because you have all this visual information, it has to be filtered so that your brain can handle it. So that some of it is just like raw biological evolutionary stuff.
Yeah.
But then at another level, you're right. You have an ear for certain things. Like, I can be listening to a song, and because I used to be a trumpet player, I can be hearing very different things than somebody else listening to that song.
And I've talked to like a bass player. I'm going, I'm not even sure who can go through and hear the bass line And to me, it's just a bunch of sounds, and it sounds great, and I'm digging it, and I'm grooving it. But I don't know where exactly the bass falls in there. But he can kind of peel that away hear the bass.
And somebody else is listening to the music, and they say, "Oh, that's a cha-cha. That's a waltz. That's a this."
Yeah, they know the time signature.
That's right. Yeah. So there's all these different filters just in our perception of reality. So that's another thing that's going on. Perception is already filtered, and a lot of that has to do with kind of like evolutionary past and all that.
Well, speaking of hearing, I heard that there's actually a hormonal component to the fact that a man and woman are lying in bed. He can sleep through the baby crying.
Right, yes.
She'll react to it.
Yeah.
And she will sleep through the rustling leaves outside the window, and he will react to it.
Yeah, so
some of that is a total biological component.
There are sex-based differences in the way people hear. Like women hear different frequencies than men hear. So
later on in life, they're like, you need to get your hearing checked. You're like, I think I'm sort of just blocking it out. You're at this frequency after 40 years of marriage that I hear just fine. It's just that it's things that are coming out of your mouth.
So, women see colors better than men do.
All right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of things like that going on that change the way we perceive. But I guess the bottom line of what I'm thinking about...
What are you getting at?
Yeah, what I'm getting at here is, like, let's say you're trying to evaluate the question, does God exist?
All
right? And we have such a bias towards, what's the evidence? What are the arguments? What's the, what's rational? What's logical? This, that, and the other thing. And it seems to me that there's a lot of thought that doesn't fit in those categories. There's like subconscious biases. There's there's justifying. You're trying to justify things about your life. There's your culture. There's your heritage. There's so many things going into that question that are completely different from, I was reading, so-and-so's argument about the assumption or other. There's certain so-called proofs of the existence of God. Right. People think that they're reading these things and they're being so logical and deciding whether they believe that. And my reaction is, I don't think that's really what's going on. That's sort of like the mouse on the back of the elephant. Like what's really going on is way deeper and more complicated than that. Your left brain, your right brain, your conscious, your unconscious, your emotions, your everything else.
Right. The skeptical atheist would say that you don't, in other aspects of your life, you don't put your faith in something without evidence.
Right.
And the fact that you don't have, and that I'm perfectly willing to get on board with your religion if you can show me some evidence of that.
Right.
And interesting that you see some very, like Kierkegaard or C.S. Lewis, very intelligent, very intellectual, very science-minded people, still able to embrace faith, even though it seems to fly in the face of the, extraordinary claims.
That's right.
Or extraordinary evidence
approach
to, rational, to a reason-based life.
Yes. And that's a really good thing to draw out, because a lot of people will try to say, smart people don't believe in God. I know a lot of very smart people who believe in God, and there are a lot of them out there. And the question, people want to say, well, there's no evidence. Well, what do you mean by that? What kind of evidence is it that you're looking for? What's the standard that you're applying? What are the rules that you're applying? And to try to think that you're just being purely rational in the way that you're in the way that you're thinking about the question is, I think, a delusion.
So the extraordinary claims that require extraordinary evidence.
Right.
Argument is kind of solid, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you've had your issues with it at some point, but all right, my friend's cousin said that he saw a coyote in his backyard. I'm like, well, we don't really have coyotes around here, but I'm not saying that couldn't happen. I mean, it's possible, and you know what? That's enough for me to go, okay.
Yeah.
My friend's cousin said he was abducted by aliens.
Or he saw Bigfoot in his back.
I'm going to say, well, you're going to have to give me more than that, than your friend's cousin said.
Yes.
And so I think, if you just stretch that out into things like, miracles, like it's written in a very old book that a miracle took place.
Right. Then
the skeptic is going to say, I think fairly, you got to do better than that.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, that's the way we live our lives all the time.
Yeah.
Because you're driving down the road and you think you see something, and your brain naturally
you run it through the reason process.
Yes, exactly. And no, it's probably not a space alien. It's probably somebody wearing a shiny coat, or something like that. So.
Yeah.
So there's a certain level where you do that automatically, but there's also a level where you apply that kind of scrutiny to every claim. You say, okay, it's kind of like this. When you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's far more likely to be horses than it is to be zebras, although it certainly could be zebras. But, you try to tend toward the easier, more logical explanation.
So could someone reason their reason their way to God, as opposed to, I don't know if it's Lewis or if it's Kierkegaard or what? They're sort of like, kind of like a fake it till you make it. Like, right? Like you know what? If you go in, I understand your skepticism. But if you kind of buy in for a while, you'll get it.
Yeah.
Kind of like a non-really reasoned way. But
that was the advice that John Wesley was given.
Okay.
By
was it? Okay. Yeah. All right.
So it was preach faith until you have faith was was the message. But so there is that side to it. But I guess I very much agree with the extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence. My concern with it is that a lot of times people apply the phrase extraordinary claims in a not very fair way.
Okay.
Because if I'm going to say, like as you said, if I'm going to say I saw a coyote in my backyard, that's not a particularly extraordinary claim. If I say
kind
I
of
saw...
unlikely, but, not extraordinary.
Not extraordinary. But if I saw Bigfoot in my backyard, that's extraordinary, right? So that's fine. But when somebody says, like, oh, God, that's an extraordinary claim, I'm saying, well, wait a minute. Why is it an extraordinary claim? Like, most of the population has believed in some notion of God, like, forever.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like it's extraordinary. So,
okay, that's good. That's
what are you talking about here? Why is it extraordinary? Now, okay, somebody laid their hands on a leper and he was cleansed. That's an extraordinary claim. Right? But so my concern with the saying is just that people toss it around a little too liberally without really thinking about, is it really extraordinary? Because it's kind of like the burden of proof thing. People will try to play games with who has the burden of proof on this topic, and it just gets tiresome after a while.
I mean, but what could? So when I'm looking at evidence or at pure reason, reasoning your way through something, and somebody says their evidence is, I was a miserable person on a downward spiral before I found Jesus,
right? And
I don't. Whatever your argument is, if that works for you, that's fine. But I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
Are you giving that guy the same kind of credit as the person who gets the ick from the divorce ring?
Right.
Sort of like, what I mean?
You
know what? That actually is valid.
No,
it's a valid
it is.
approach to Now we're talking about something bigger. Now we're talking about God and religion.
Yeah.
More than just the notion of a funky ring.
I think that's a great point, because what counts as evidence? Let's say, so I heard this great story where the Salvation Army guy was preaching on the street, and some professor from the local college comes up and challenges him, says, "Tell you what, I'm going to rent this hall and we're going to have a debate."
Okay.
And the Salvation Army guy says, "I would love to debate you, but on these terms. I will bring 10 drunkards who are now sober. I'll bring 10 former prostitutes who are now, married with children. I'll bring 10 thieves who are now productive workers of society. You do the same. People who heard your message of skepticism and rationalism,
right,
and turned their lives around.
Oh, yeah,
and
right.
And okay, on those terms, I will debate you." And the guy said, "Never mind."
Yeah.
So so there is an argument. I mean, that's not a stupid argument.
It's not a stupid argument.
Yeah. So
but I'm not sure if this is where you're going, but if you just look that we only know we know the world best,
yeah,
when we operate on pure reason,
yeah,
then you're saying that's not the whole.
No, I'm saying that's not the whole picture. And I don't want this to be entirely about religion, because I think it has to do with a lot of different things. It's just that when we evaluate the world, if we think we're doing it purely rationally, right, I think that's not the way humans are built. That's not the way we operate. That's not
right. That's as much as you would like, and as much as it's probably a good idea,
yeah,
to filter everything through the most likely reasonable Occam's razor approach to the world. It's
right.
not really how our minds work.
Yes.
Really. So I don't really know much about Immanuel Kant.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is he's famous for his critique of pure reason.
Right.
And this is at a time, this was during the Age of Reason.
Yeah.
So this is when people were getting on board with the idea of scientific revolution, and
right,
we can know everything.
Mm-hmm.
The way to know,
yeah,
is through reason. And you even have like the Descartes, mm-hmm, who were going, yes, we can even know God and
immortality of the soul.
Yes, yes,
right, yeah,
yes.
By just sitting in an armchair thinking.
Yes,
yes.
And so in this same lifetime here, right, you have Immanuel Kant and his critique of pure reason. And I was like, well, that's got to apply to this show somehow.
Yeah, and, well, it does, because Kant is saying, and I don't know a ton about Kant either, but from my understanding,
right,
is that he's saying, look, when Descartes is saying you can just sit there and evaluate things, no, that's not fair. But on the other hand, you can't say that everything requires empirical knowledge. There are certain things that we do know without, okay, so there's that distinction between all scarlet things are red,
right,
and all the flowers in my garden are red.
Right.
All scarlet things are red is a definitional thing. Scarlet is just a shade of red.
You can do that from your armchair.
From your armchair. You don't have to look at anything to say that. That's just true. But all the flowers in my garden are red. You have to go out and look in the garden. Right? So that's the difference between, things you know because you can reason to them, and things you have to use observation. But then there's another class of things, Kant apparently was arguing, where it doesn't require a reason, and you can't go out and determine every effect has a cause, because David Hume rejected that. David Hume was an empiricist, and he would say, just because such and such follows from this other thing many, 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 many times doesn't mean we can say this causes this thing. And Kant's response was, that's nonsense. We know that there's such a thing as cause and effect.
Right.
Right? So that's not something that you can sort of intuit, and it's also not something that you get just from observation. It's sort of another kind of a rational approach.
My understanding is that experience doesn't cause reality,
Uh-huh.
but that the objective world does exist without you, but you have to bring order to it. That a mind a mind brings the order to, because you can imagine if you had a different kind of a mind. I don't know.
Yes.
A spider with 8 eyes
Yes.
is clearly experiencing the same physical world that you are.
In a radically different way.
Yes.
Somehow or another, a spider up there can crawl from there to there and figure out actually the perfect path to get, like, I don't know how they do that, but it's not what you think it is. Like, if you were to think the perfect path, you'd draw a line. That's actually not the right path. But the spider somehow knows the correct path. So you're right. They perceive the world very differently. But I think...
But it's different than... I think where he's sort of drawing a synthesis between the objective world exists by itself and you are an impassive observer.
Yeah, and you're not. And yes, you're not an impassive
And the
observer.
other one is you are... I guess... You experience the tree falling in the woods. You know what I mean? Like the tree actually does fall in the woods, even if nobody hears it, and it does make a sound.
Mm-hmm.
But you bring the experience. I think phenomenology is really all about, your experience creates the world.
Yeah. So I think it's right. One side of it is that we create the world. Another side of it is we observe the world, and kind of saying, well, actually, neither one of those things are true.
Right.
What's happening is our mind shapes the way we perceive the world. There is the thing in itself. There's the thing as it really exists, and there's the thing as we perceive it, right? So there's this thing out there. Kant is not going to say that thing only exists because I perceive it. He's not going to say that. But he is going to say it has its own existence, and my perception of it is filtered through all of my biases, my everything else, so that there's the thing the way I perceive it, and there's the thing the way it actually exists.
But is there a you that is controlling? Are you biologically, materially predisposed to this interpretation of the world?
Yeah.
Or do you have control over how these different filters is that what defines the you?
Yeah. So what I want to do with Kant is he wants to say there's the thing in itself and there's the thing the way we perceive it. And I want to say, okay, Kant, let's apply that to the self. There's the self in itself and there's the self the way we perceive it. Like this, we think we know who we are. We think we know, like, okay, I know myself. But then somebody else comes along and points out something about yourself that you don't really, you think about it and say, yeah, you're right. I really am that way. And it's not your perception, right? So I would say that who you really are, your actual self, there is one thing, and your perception of yourself is something else. So I'm like turning Kant's idea onto the self.
But are you... is there a determinist view, a determinist approach? Like, can you will yourself to be a different self?
Yeah.
Or are you a slave to your own self?
Right. Yes. Actually, supposedly Kant had a different perspective on determinism, in that it has to do something about the thing as it really is and the thing the way we perceive it, that he applied that to determinism in a way where he put determinism on one side and not on the other, and I didn't quite catch it. But that question of, can you change yourself? Well, I mean, think of the Salvation Army guy and his yes, you can change, but is there a point at which, like, are there certain things that you can't change? Are there things that this is just the way you are, and you're never going to get out of that?
Well, I would say that I am not I don't know if I have ever started a sentence with, well, I'm the kind of guy who, yes. Because I understand the sort of, the flexibility of who a person can be under various circumstances.
Right.
So basically, I am the kind of guy who would never start a sentence with "I'm the kind of guy." Or my favorite is, look, there are two kinds of people in the world. People who think that there are two kinds of people in the world, and people who know better.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So there's certainly an element of that where we think of ourselves in a certain way, but we also are a certain way. I mean, there are certain things that you do and certain things you don't do. So I got another story to kind of go along with this. So let's say there's a world-class violinist, expert violinist. He has some sort of an accident, he has a car accident or something, and he loses his memory, but he retains the muscle memory. He can't, if you ask him about a song, he can't remember anything about it. But you give him a violin and he can play the song. Okay? Now,
yep.
Who's playing the song?
Right.
Right? See, this is kind of the point that I'm kind of getting at, is our perception of me, who I am. We think of it as this very thin layer of consciousness that sits over all these other things, right? The violinist is still the one playing the song.
Yeah.
The fact that he can't consciously perceive it the same way he did before his accident, and that's significant and terrifying and
yes.
Sad.
Darn shame.
But still, it's still him doing it.
Right.
Right? So this idea we have of ourself, we usually think of ourselves in this sense of, what I think, what I feel, what I perceive in my mind. And I'm saying, no, I don't think that's it. I think yourself is a much more complicated thing than that.
So what about the reflecting back on a decision that you made, and when you say, "Gosh, I don't know what I was thinking."
Right.
I don't know what I was thinking.
Yes.
And so was that a different person than you?
Right.
But
yes.
you would say, I don't know what I was thinking. But sometimes I use that in two ways, like in a deterministic way.
Mm-hmm.
I say, it doesn't make sense right now, but I'm not aware of all of the circumstances at that time.
Yeah.
What I was feeling, what was going on, what relationships were going on in my life. And while I wouldn't make that decision now, but given the set of circumstances then, but it also allows me to live a somewhat deterministic and regret-free life.
Okay.
That I otherwise you could just beat yourself up over having made that decision at the time. Where if you say, wait a minute, it kind of wasn't me.
Yeah.
Because the circumstances and the influences and whatever else that were going, the maturity level, whatever was going on, was a different me who made that decision with that, deterministic way.
Right.
And so, I kind of wish it wouldn't have happened, and hopefully I learned something from it.
Yeah.
But there's really no reason to
beat yourself up.
To feel deep, genuine regret because it made sense at the time.
But I think yes, that's a good point of view, and I think that kind of thing shows us that who I am is sometimes it's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of
we're even acknowledging it sometimes. Like, I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I mean, how can you not know what you were thinking? Aren't you? You?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm me.
It was you thinking. Who else was it?
Who else
was somebody else thinking in your brain?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I guess my kind of drawing all this together, bringing it to a close, is don't think of yourself only as the rational you that you kind of think through things logically. You're way more complicated than that.
And give yourself a break.
Allow
yourself to be being guided by emotion in this situation.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you're denying reality because you've given more weight to feeling than to reason and intellect.
That's part of your life also.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. So to the integrated, I don't know. How about to giving yourself a break?
Okay. Good.
Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.